You love her voice, you love her looks. Melissa loves comic books. I'm working on a theme song. It's a work in progress, don't judge me. Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to go over more details about more fun comics from the issues that took place in 1937, issues 18 through 28. Let's see what my notes say. I have probably in the past lavished more attention on Spike Spalding than it warrants, and I only talked about it for one episode. This is Associate Editor Vin Sullivan's baby, and it often has a sweet berth up near the front of the book, despite being a poor Terry and the Pirates clone. In this comparison, Spike is Terry, the Pat Ryan character is this unnamed guy just called the Sailor, and Connie the racist stereotype is replaced by Pincus the racist stereotype. This strip's only saving grace, its only one, is that Pincus isn't in any subservient role to Spike. He's Spike's best friend. And in that sense, this strip is, in a subtle way, progressive in having a white and black boy playing together in what had to have been an integrated neighborhood. And rather than spend any time going over the plot developments in this story, because let's face it, it's just not that interesting, let's dwell instead a little longer on that last point. It should seem obvious by now. I've harped on it and pointed out racist caricatures enough already on this channel that drawing non-white people in this manner was just expected of artists, and no one ever seemed to question it. But there were market influences too. Let's take a look at the indicia from an issue of More Fun. It seems to indicate the locations New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, Detroit, Chicago, maybe St. Louis, it's mentioned in the fine print, San Francisco, and Seattle. And if they really had distribution in all those cities, note that they are all markets in the north, with only St. Louis being legally segregated in the 1930s. This story of Spike Spalding and Pincus being best friends probably never would have seen print in this manner if National had broader distribution in the South. All right, moving on. Pep Morgan is still a two-page gag strip with a sports theme. It's being drawn competently by Craig Flessel, National Allied's main cover artist at this time, though this is far from his best work. A note on the comics.org website tells me that, according to Alter Ego magazine number 88, an issue that I don't own, Craig was once interviewed about who wrote his stories for DC Comics, and he said they were done by associate editors Vin Sullivan and Whit Ellsworth. With issue number 21, the title is briefly expanded to Pep Morgan and the Riverdale Boys. Other than Pep dressing in girls' clothes to walk out of a girls' dorm with his lost soccer ball in issue number 20, I don't have more to say about this feature. Barry O'Neill and Fang of China is an adventure serial that has been on basically the same extended adventure since the very first issue. Throughout 1937, we are still just getting 2 pages an issue, but the story progresses at an almost frantic pace. At the end of last year, the crippled Fang Gao kidnapped Inspector Legrand's daughter, Jean, to force Legrand to bring him a surgeon who can make Fang Gao walk again. The operation is successful, but meanwhile Barry has followed them to the cemetery hideout, sneaks in, but is himself captured. Jean saves Barry's life when he is knocked down and is about to be beheaded with a sword. She's recovered a gun and shoots the executioner. Jean is overpowered and hauled away as Fang Gao's men evacuate the hideout and take the recovering Fang Gao with them. From questioning a captured guard, they learn Fang Gao is on his way to Cairo and Barry pursues in a plane. But Fang Gao has a plane watching for this approach, and Barry's plane is shot down over the Mediterranean. Barry survives and is rescued by a passing ship. In Cairo, he basically stumbles across Fang Gao's new lair by dumb luck, rescues Jean, but at the last page of the year, he appears to be about to be captured again. This strip appears to still be written by Major Wheeler Nicholson. It has the breakneck pacing that Malcolm learned from Pulp Fiction, has a strong female character, or at least strong-ish, as Jean acquits herself well when she saves Barry, It's also a story decidedly aimed at adult readers. There is a moment in Cairo when Fang is about to have one of Jean's fingers cut off, just before Barry arrives to save the day again. The Leah Amelia artwork continues to be gorgeous. The following example should further demonstrate his sense of motion, his use of contrasting light and dark for dramatic effect, and his attention to detail. The feature Super Police 2023 had wrapped up after just 14 installments late in 1936. It was followed the next month by sort of a sequel series, Marson of the Interplanetary Police, set in 2060. It makes sense. Super Police had lost the plot, getting away from outer space adventure, and had become a hollow world adventure, with the queen of an underground kingdom falling for one of the two policeman leads, Rex Cosmos, that the series had followed. Mark Marson would give us, instead of two leads, one lead, and take the action back above ground again. Except, well, by the time we meet Mark again at the start of 1937, the adventure is indoors. Mark is teamed up with a partner, Lieutenant Montague, who Mark calls Monty, and they are trying to rescue a woman named Gail, which feels an awful lot like Barry O'Neill's story going on at the same time. There are flashes of advanced science in the strip, including the use of a hologram to bait a trap, though it isn't called that because the word hologram wasn't coined until 1949, but most of the time the weapons used are quite mundane, like the mad scientist guards who use daggers and poison spears. Super Police 2023 had been written by Ken Fitch and Clem Gretter, who also did Don Drake, but the art chores on this new strip were the work of Tom Hickey. Tom Hickey, who had started working for National in mid-1936 when he took over the Wing Brady strip. Tom was 27, had studied art at the National Academy of Design, and was already a teacher in Manhattan. We don't know why he decided to become a comic book artist, but he sure seemed to like it. He only stayed with National to 1940, but did a lot of work for Dell Publications in the early 1940s, then Harvey Comics in the 1950s, and American Comics Group as late as the early 1960s. Speaking of Tom Hickey on Wing Brady, we haven't checked in on Wing Brady since episode 2, when he was fighting the Bedouins. So what is he up to now? Well, he's still fighting the Bedouins, but this is the end of the 17-part Bedouin serial, with Wing capturing Ali Ben Said and using him as a hostage to get Lynn Harding, the damsel in distress and love interest, to freedom. Just like how Barry O'Neill is rescuing a damsel in distress and Mark Marson is rescuing a damsel in distress, there's a lot of imperiled women going on around here. Immediately after the storyline that Tom had taken over drawing halfway through, the installments bump up from 2 to 4 pages per issue. The action moves from the Arab Peninsula west to Tunis, the capital of Tunisia. Wing returns Lynn to her father in a reunion with a really weirdly intimate kiss. Then Wing is captured by smugglers led by Count Mario Falaschi, who has a grudge against Wing because Wing killed his brother. Note how, like Joe Shuster on Dr. Occult, Tom is learning to modify the number of panels per page to control the pacing of the story, which he can do thanks to the expanded page count he has to work with. Here he tries to lend this confrontation gravitas by enlarging it. He's on the right track. This practice will gradually morph into the full-page splash page, which we haven't seen yet in comics. Speaking of Tom Hickey, he'd also taken over drawing Brad Hardy since mid-1936. Wheeler Nicholson sure liked Tom Hickey's art. Brad Hardy, who I only briefly mentioned in an earlier episode, is one of those underground explorer heroes. Previously, Brad's girlfriend Lorraine, you're never going to believe this, but she's a damsel in distress. Oh wait, you probably did already guess that already. This one is worse. The king of the Grey People has her under a spell, so she'll be his queen. Ew. So Brad and his friend Prince Cardo set out to brave the Forbidden City and rescue her, but are captured by the forces of General Porgo. Brad and Cardos are imprisoned, but stage a jailbreak. The prisoners rush Porgo's guards, letting Brad reach him and overcome Porgo in hand-to-hand combat. The safest way to the king's palace seems to be to sneak through the great gray forest. We even get a map that illustrates this. The great people sure aren't very imaginative when it comes to names. Of course, it's not safe. There's boa constrictors, dragon like monsters. To escape the last one, they dive into the sea and are pulled by an undertow to the bottom where, strangely, they can breathe the water. Here is an underwater city carved into a giant coral reef. The undersea people are the most technologically advanced people Brad has met so far. Despite being underwater, they have metal riveted sea craft and lightning guns that don't just electrocute everyone around them when they're discharged. They kill a giant undersea monster to save Brad and Cardos, and in a gruesome panel I'm not showing you, the monster is torn in half and missing a leg after the lightning strikes. And panels like this make me think that the kid-oriented strips like Little Linda are really there just for filler, and Wheeler Nicholson wasn't really interested in keeping his comic books all ages friendly at all. Wheeler Nicholson might have had great faith in Tom Hickey, but he didn't seem to have it in Brad Hardy. Brad Hardy never graduates past 2 pages an issue, was almost always in black and white or colored with red only, and was gone from comics forever before 1938 was halfway over. Now, you might think that a minute ago was a great seg to talk about Little Linda next, but I think I've gone on long enough. Between this episode and the last, I've covered 9 features, and this is just representative rather than a comprehensive overview of what was found in More Fun Comics in 1937. If you want to know more about what was in it, you can read it yourself. We are fast approaching the point in early 1938 where More Fun Comics is no longer in the public domain, but for now you can read along online, and the links in the comments section below, which you can read. And then while you're there, also don't forget to like and subscribe to this. So enjoy, and bye for now.